All right. And here we are. It feels like forever and a day since I've recorded a video. Probably because it has been a while. It's been a couple of months. Maybe longer. I don't fucking remember. Anyway, doesn't matter. There's all kinds of things that I've been meaning to do and meaning to cover and so on and so forth. And, the problem with, well, Liam, of course, is that every time I think, yeah, I should probably maybe cover this video, it's like, no, there's another video out. Okay, well, I have to watch that one and try to figure out whether that one's worth covering. Anyway, so, but God Empress, Jessi Milestone, makes videos far less frequently than Liam. And she made one, and I find myself compelled to comment, I think. This is her pinned tweet. I did not even know that she had a Indiegogo campaign going, but apparently she does. Milestone Fencing Studio. Now, we're not going to go over it in detail like we normally do, but I just thought I'd briefly look at it. It's raised over $5,000 and 61 backers. It's in demand. If anybody's interested, you can, follow the... I'm not going to bother probably putting it in the description or anything, but anyway. 16 people claimed all the swag for $100. 10 wanted their name on a banner for $5. Digital print. 5 takers there. 5 takers on a $25 button. That seems kind of expensive button. A $50 beanie, 4 people wanted that. That's kind of expensive. And a $75 t-shirt. Holy shit. $25 t-shirt is pushing it for my budget. 4 people were able to afford it at $75. Damn. And there's her looking all professional. And some kind of celebrity. Isaac Singleton? Is that... I don't know who he is. Is he a fencer? Is he an actor? I don't know. Name doesn't ring a bell offhand. Anyway, so, yeah. That's apparently happened. A whole bunch of campaigns have come and gone, and I meant to cover them. Sorry. Didn't get around to it. Oh well. Alright, so here's the video in question. And I hope the volume is an acceptable level. It's entitled, They're Coming For Us. As you'll see, it's rather dramatic. Rather dramatic, I think. A little too overly so. It's just, I don't know.
Welcome to Milestone Entertainment. My name is Jessi Milestone. I am your God Empress, and I'm making this video today because I am afraid.
She is afraid. Now, before we get into this, let's consider that Jessi is a leftist. She's not quite as far to the left as some people, and she has been known to speak out against SJWs from time to time, but she's all too clearly a leftist herself, of, whatever degree. It's... I don't want to make this religious, although it kind of is religious, so I don't know that there's any getting away from that. She's a Jew, okay, although as far as I'm aware, she is not a believer. Like, I'm pretty sure that she's, an atheist or agnostic or whatever. I don't believe that she's devout in any way, as are most Jews these days. Most of them are secular. Anyway, for Christians like myself, it's like we should, often we're not, but we should be aware that, we are not given a spirit of fear. We're not supposed to be afraid or live in fear of things and so on. Don't fear, those who can kill the body. Fear only he who can kill the soul. But anyway, it is what the leftist establishment has sought for a long time. I mean, in various ways, not specifically what she's talking about, but they seek to put us all in a state of fear so that they can control us. And a lot of us fell for it, but a lot of us did not. I won't, I won't go into it because you're not supposed to discuss things like that on YouTube. But, you know, the current world situation that we're all aware of, anybody watching this channel ought to be aware of it, and and probably has an idea for themselves of what level of bullshit to consider it to be. Regardless of how real or not real anything pertaining to it might be, it's very obvious that the powers that be are milking the situation for all it's fucking worth, trying to, trying to suppress people's rights and so on and so forth. Anyway, the narrative, of course, is falling apart. We're, more and more people are deciding that they're not going to live in fear, and that's a good thing. That's an excellent thing. But anyway, somebody who is afraid is more easily manipulated, and while it may not have been the same thing as everybody else has been, subjected to or whatever, nevertheless, here we have they have, the powers that be or whatever have succeeded in having her as a victim. Now, the question is, how much of that is honest on her part, and how much of it is just her deciding to play the victim as leftists always fucking do? I don't know. I can't really answer that. I don't know the woman well enough. You can leave your opinions in the comments and let me know what you think about her. But anyway, she has established, 6 seconds into the video, she's established she's afraid. I don't believe that she has good reason to be. I'm not saying that she has no reason to be, but I'm saying I don't think she has good enough reason to have embraced fear.
I'm legitimately afraid. I'm not saying that. I'm not trying to sensationalize that. I'm not trying to get you to be afraid as well. I am. I personally am.
Okay, well, that's good that she's not trying to sensationalize it, but as I said, I don't think that she should be afraid. I don't think, again, it's, my perspective is that of a Christian, but none of us should be afraid. Like, obviously there's reason to fear if you haven't accepted Christ and you don't know where you're going after you die. But if you have, certainly you shouldn't be afraid really of anything. It's like you should, I don't know that I'd say that you should welcome death as in be really eager for it. I mean, some Christians feel that way. I don't know that I would say that I feel eager to die, but I'm not afraid of it. This, again, referencing the situation that must not be named, the coof and everything. I referenced it, sort of. But anyway, but I didn't make any claims or assertions about the viability of alternative treatments or anything, so hopefully I'm still in the clear. Anyway, but this whole time, it's like, oh, you're supposed to be afraid. You're supposed to be deathly afraid of this virus, and it's like, but viruses, this one may be more contagious, but it's not more deadly than other viruses that have been around in the past. So why is everybody, falling for it? Why is everybody like, yes, I will be super afraid of this like I haven't been in the past from, the flu, whatever. And I don't know. I don't understand that. I don't understand why everybody's like, yes, I'm desperate. Give me the jab just as quick as it's available. Like, again, I think I've mentioned before that there have been years when I took the flu shot and years when I didn't. And it has always seemed like a crapshoot, and I don't feel like it ever definitively, helped. So some years back, I don't remember how many it's been since I took a flu shot, but it's been quite a few now. And I just stopped taking them because what's the point? There doesn't seem to be any fucking point to it. And, I was vaccinated for, measles, mumps, rubella, all the standard kid stuff, at least when I was a kid, the standard kid stuff. Of course, they keep on adding more and more vaccinations to the list that, you're supposed to give your kids. And I don't, if I was a parent, I don't think I'd be giving my kid all the vaccinations that they recommend at this point, because I think it's gotten overwhelming, you know. And I don't know about all vaccines, but I know that some vaccines have toxic elements in them. Like, I think some of them have mercury in it and whatnot. And I think that the reason for that is supposedly to stimulate an immune response, because the virus isn't, like, active and therefore won't cause an immune response itself. So you got to stimulate the immune response with something else. I don't know. Anyway, I don't care. But like I said, it's like, you know, the way I would do it if I was a parent is I would evaluate each disease, you know, on an individual basis and be like, which ones of these are the, you know, effects of my kid getting it going to be so bad that it would definitely be better to risk whatever side effects there might be of the vaccine. You know, and I think probably the list of diseases that would be a problem are pretty low, you know. You know, I mean, you know, the MMR, sure, you know, polio, yeah, you know, such things, but, you know, but again, you know, flu vaccines or various other things, it's like, no, I don't think so. It's like, if I was a parent, I think I'd give those a miss. You know, just saying. All right, I'm sorry, getting off topic on the whole, you know, health business. But anyway, back to her being afraid, which she shouldn't be. Again, it's, you know, none of us should be afraid of any of this crap. I don't know of not of what she's afraid of, not of what, you know. I mean, I realize I'm not in the same position as she is vis-a-vis her fear, but still, like, none of us should be living in fear of anything, you know, unless there's damn good reason for it, you know. I mean, if you're living in a country that's experiencing a civil war actively and there's bombings and shit happening, then yeah, I can understand you being afraid. But things in America compared to most places in the world, even as bad as it gets here sometimes, still a lot better than most other places. So, yeah, I don't know.
Over some events that have happened recently that affect my people, and it starts with someone that just happened about a week ago, I believe.
Now, we are going to look at her Twitter. That's why I have it pulled up. But I just want to point out that not in the description of her video, nor anywhere, as far as I'm aware, in the actual video itself, does she actually say anything about go here for more information, or does she explain in detail what the fuck she's talking about. She's just like, some things have happened recently, and they make me afraid, and blah, blah, blah. And why isn't anyone talking about it? And it's like, well, you're talking about it sort of, but you're not actually explaining what happened. So you're not helping. You know, you're not helping your own cause or whatever here. Anyway.
The news is just breaking, because why would this be a headline? It's not. It's just a little story somewhere, and that is Tennessee. That's a certain school district in Tennessee and what they've elected to do. And now here's the thing. It's not new. It is not new.
She lives in L.A., but she's worried about one thing happening in one school district in Tennessee. I don't think I have to comment on the ridiculousness of that, but, you know, anyway.
For a group of inane school board directors, or a board of whatever, directors in a school, to get together and decide to ban some books. And usually the way it happens is they've decided...
Well, there's been a lot of that in the news recently, and despite the mainstream narrative attempting to convince everyone that CRT, and I don't mean cathode ray tubes, are being taught in school. It's like, oh, they're trying to convince you, no, that didn't happen. That's a total lie. That's never happened. But of course, it has. You know, and parents are getting tired of this bullshit, and they're fighting back. And so, of course, the mainstream media is trying to smear everyone as a fucking racist or whatever. And it's just, you know, it's not working. You know, the I'm happy to say that, as near as I can tell, it is not fucking working. And that's all to the good. But you see where Jessi comes down on it. She's a leftist, and therefore she doesn't think that school boards have any business responding to the concerns of parents, no matter what the subject, I'm sure. Now, she's only talking about one specific thing. I will give her that. But I suspect that her attitude would be similar for all the other things that they might be concerned about.
There are certain things they don't want taught anymore.
Yeah, they don't want kindergartners taught about anal sex and various other things. That's a problem for some people. Now, perhaps it's not a problem for you, Jessi, probably because you don't have any children as far as I know. Maybe if you had some kids, you'd feel differently about it.
Certain ideas about, free thinking and whatnot that are just too dangerous to have kids have access to. And so they list those criteria. They find any book.
Well, I'm sorry, but I kind of have to agree with anybody who wants to limit what kids have access to. And frankly, I say that as somebody who did. Well, I mean, I was in my teens when I first got access to the internet. Not very far into my teens, but still. And on the one hand, I wanted to, look up all of the naughty things that I looked up. But on the other hand, I think it's probably, a foregone conclusion that, objectively it would have been better if my parents had kept a closer eye on me and not allowed me to see those things. I don't know. Just a thought. But anyway, there's, I mean, for the way that leftists always act like it's just not okay to try to stop kids from learning whatever they want to learn about or whatever, or it's like, oh, it's bad to limit their information, and it's like, except that is pretty much the entire point of being a parent is, I mean, as part of your parental duties anyway, a major part of it is deciding when your kids should learn about certain things. And there's certainly some things that they definitely shouldn't learn about when they're still children, because some knowledge is not necessarily genuinely beneficial, and instead is frankly corrupting. Kids should be allowed to be kids, to remain innocent for as long as they can manage, because once it's gone, it's gone.
Books that meet them, they get together, they meet, and they ban those books. That's not what happened in this particular school board in Tennessee. They got together and decided to ban one book that was so problematic that they voted unanimously to get rid of it, and that book was Mouse. If you're not familiar, Mouse is a graphic novel written by Art Spiegelman, and it's autobiographical about his.
Never heard of it.
His father's time surviving the Holocaust, being in a camp.
Okay. How graphic did it get, I wonder? And what school ages was this previously approved for? I mean, I might not agree with the school board's decision if it had only been a book that was available to high school students, but if it was available to, junior high or especially elementary school students, I'd kind of think maybe I'd agree with them that you don't want to be too graphic about things. But like I said, I don't know, because I've not read this book. I don't know anything about it. But, she just said it's about surviving the Holocaust. It's like a lot of that was really bad. It was really awful stuff. And if you describe it in too much detail, then I would think that, you don't want at least young kids to be exposed to that.
And it's heavy, it's rough, it's a lot.
Okay, there we go. It's heavy, it's rough. So again, what was it something only available to the high school students and they decided to take that away, in which case it probably wasn't necessary, or was it available to all grades of students, and therefore probably it was a good idea to either limit it or take it away?
But Now, the thing is, if you know anything about Holocaust literature, you know that there is literature about the Holocaust geared towards children of every age.
Okay, was this one of those?
Down to picture books, to Number the Stars, which I read when I was 8. I mean, it is very critically important in Judaism to remember the Holocaust.
That's an interesting statement, isn't it? I mean, it is important for all of us, not just Jews, but for everybody to remember when terrible things happen, to learn from history and hopefully not repeat the mistakes of the past. But I still find that interesting, the way that she phrased that. Critically important in Judaism to learn about the Holocaust. I find it disturbing the way that the ADL and various other groups, organizations, choose to weaponize the, tragedies of the past. And something that I believe I have seen, I don't remember, I think I have looked at the ADL's website at one point or another, and I'm pretty sure that I noticed that there was, well, I mean, there's a bunch of ridiculous bullshit that's probably, just a troll from 4chan or someplace, and they, are like, oh yeah, the OK sign, that means white power. No, it doesn't. It never did. That was just a fucking joke to see if the mainstream media would fall for it, and they did. But anyway, the ADL, apart from having a bunch of bullshit like that on their website, pretty sure I noticed that they try to smear every right-wing group as white supremacists or Nazis or whatever, basically every single one of them, including the ones that are, that include many people who are not white, perhaps even are led by people who are not white, and yet they're still labeled white supremacist groups. And I'm pretty sure that even distinctly, racist groups that are on the left or whatever, none of those somehow ever get painted with that same brush. So I consider that the ADL, which, that's a Jewish group, but also other leftist organizations that, as far as I know, are not specifically Jewish, like the Southern Poverty Law Center, are themselves hate groups, because they go around labeling people, labeling people on the right as being, Nazis or white supremacists, some of the, labeling them some of the worst things that you can be labeled in our society, and quite often that is a lie. Those groups are not guilty of what they're said to be guilty of. But they smear them that way, and they never fucking do that to the left. They never, not only do they never falsely, implicate them in that shit, but even when they do horrible racist shit, they still don't say anything about it. So, yeah, not exactly even-handed. But, again, these are leftists, so of course they only attack the right.
And to understand it, and from the youngest of ages to understand how vulnerable we as a people were at that time. And we do that so that
Well, how vulnerable they as a people were. Okay. I don't think that they were the only vulnerable ones, correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't the Nazis kill various other groups that they found to be undesirable? I know that they were big on killing homosexuals. Pretty sure there were several other categories of undesirable. But even those who were specifically victimized by the Nazis, other than the Jews, as far as I'm aware, none of them really try to, weaponize the fact that they were, subjected to that. So,
we can understand and recognize when the situations arise that cause danger for our people. So we can...
Well, what happened, of course, as I would expect anybody who knows anything about history to know, is that the Nazis needed a scapegoat. They chose the Jews. They could have chosen anybody, but they chose the Jews. But the point is, it's like, it's not necessarily that they were special in any particular way. You know, it wasn't, anyway, like I said, it's just, it was, it was, bad shit has happened to Germany. We've been humiliated, we've been bankrupted, basically, whatever. The Hitler's rise to power was all about hyperinflation. Keep that in mind for the possibly very near future in the United States. Anyway, but it's like they needed somebody to blame for all the ills that they were suffering. To focus everybody, all the proper pure Germans or whatever the fuck, focus their anger, their outrage on one particular group and be like, these people are responsible for your problems. And so it could have been any group, but they chose the Jews. And actually, it's kind of interesting. If you read into it, you find out that one of the reasons why they chose the Jews is because they're non-scientific racial ideology, or whatever you want to call it, their ideas about racial supremacy and whatnot. They believe that they were, descended from some Nordic or whatever pure blood race, something or other bullshit. Anyway, basically the whitest of the white or something. I don't know. Anyway, but it's like the Nazis developed that ideology about their racial purity and whatnot. And the reason that they, one reason at least that they chose the Jews as their victims is because they believed that the Jews were like kind of second tier on the racial hierarchy, as it were, or whatever. So they were worried that the Jews are smart enough that they might cause us a problem. So we need to get rid of them because they're it's, like I said, interesting. It's all kind of bullshit, but anyway.
Protect ourselves against it. And those situations have been on the rise.
Well, and I understand that part of the quote-unquote protecting yourself against it is, I'm not talking about her specifically necessarily, but, but the ADL and whoever else, it's like, is constantly talking about how we're victims. We've been victimized in the past. The Holocaust, blah, 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 blah. Constantly bringing it up and harping on about it and trying to use it to gain sympathy from everybody else. I understand that is, that there is a, I suppose, legitimate reason why you would go there. But I don't think I'm overstating matters when I say that they've kind of gone to that well too many times. The Holocaust and, Hitler and the Nazis have been turned into this singular thing. Like the Holocaust was the worst, most horrible genocide ever in the history of the world. And that the Jews are the ultimate victims, that the Nazis are the ultimate evil, that Hitler was the worst person to ever live. That's how that's all been painted for us. But the reality is that Stalin killed a lot more people than Hitler, and Mao killed even more than Stalin. The commies were significantly worse than the National Socialists. They were all Marxists, they were all leftist shitbags, but the commies were objectively worse. But, is Stalin, it's not that Stalin is, held up as some kind of saint or something, but, I suppose by Antifa maybe, who knows? But by modern day commies perhaps. But he's not demonized the way that Hitler is, and the Soviets or the Chaikovs or whoever are not demonized the way that the Nazis are. And despite the fact that Stalin, at least I believe, didn't he kill a bunch of Jews too? Didn't the Soviets kill a bunch of Jews? I can't remember for sure, but I think so. It wasn't only them, obviously, and but I do believe that they were killed along with others. Anyway, but like none of these other, horrible genocides that happened are held up as being something that was anywhere near as bad as the Holocaust, even though by the numbers they were worse. I mean, that's the historical reality. And I don't, what happened to the Jews was terrible. Not trying to say it wasn't. But I think the way that, and again, it's not like every Jewish person in existence does this, but the way various Jewish groups like the ADL and whoever else, the way that they use it, for never-ending campaign against their political adversaries, who frankly have nothing to do. It's like World War II and the events of it have nothing to do with their current-day political adversaries. Just doesn't. So you got leftist Jewish groups like the ADL who are like, oh, these people over here that voted for Trump, they're Nazis. Well, they're not. I mean, maybe a tiny handful of them might be. I don't know. But the overwhelmingly vast majority of Trump supporters, most assuredly not Nazis. As a matter of fact, in the United States, there's a whole bunch of right-wingers, a whole bunch of Christians who inappropriately place Jews on some kind of pedestal and act like they're, I mean, I'm sorry, but it's like they're, we're talking about reality here. So the reality is that modern day Jews, that is to say the ones who actually believe, they're essentially the Pharisees. Like they're all concerned with, with legalism. Yeah. And like they're not that great, it's like, I mean, they're, they need to be, converted if possible and saved, but they're, there's no reason to put them up on some kind of pedestal and act like they're so great, because they're not. There aren't any people to be put on pedestals like that. Frankly, no group should be seen as better than any other. It's just it's to some degree lunacy. But there's but the point remains that there's quite a number of right wingers and Christians who do that with the Jews. They think of them as like a special class of people or some shit that they really like. So it's kind of ironic that left-wing Jews are, they hate those right-wing Christians, but those right-wing Christians would be some of the best people to have your back if there really is a problem. Anyway.
In this country, in our own country, for several years now. And people want to say, you've been saying, you can trace back on my channel where I've been discussing this and talking about this. And at this point, some people might say, well, you're sensationalizing it. You've been saying this for 3 years and nothing's happened. Okay. Yeah, because that's a short...
To be fair, I haven't actually noticed her saying this. I mean, she could have, and I just didn't notice. But I don't remember seeing one of these videos before. Maybe I just wasn't paying attention. But this to me, it's like mostly I'm used to seeing her, do her live streams or whatever with Anna or whoever, other Fandom Menace or Fandom Menace adjacent YouTubers, and it just, to me, this video just seemed like it came out of nowhere. I mean, like I said, she says she's said it for years. Maybe she has. I don't know. I just don't remember seeing videos talking about it. But anyway.
Span of time for massive amounts of political and social upheaval to happen. I mean, yeah, you might be thinking, sure, because of how much has happened in the past, that amount of time. And you're not wrong. There has been a great amount of unrest and upheaval over a short period of time.
And while it's always possible that she does understand some of the stuff that's, the lunatic business that's going on the far left, odds are that when she talks about political upheaval and whatnot, she considers that, that evil bastard Trump getting elected and blah 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 blah, and all of his supporters are racist, etc. etc. She's probably thinking in those standard lefty terms. This is utterly ridiculous to anybody who actually is on the right and knows other people on the right, and you hear people going on about how, oh, they're all a bunch of evil racists. It's like, really? I had no idea that we were a bunch of evil racists. How odd. These people, they think that I don't know. They think that we're camped out in some basement someplace with Nazi flags on the walls or some shit. It's fucking ridiculous. But anyway, let's get on with this.
But some things don't fall into that window. Other things live on that slow burn, and you hear warning signs. I can think of a couple recent examples.
That is kind of a funny pause face. But anyway, but just to mention, it's like, to the best of my knowledge, there's been, loser-ass neo-Nazi dickheads in America ever since the Second World War. Like, they've been here all along. There have been people talking about how Hitler's a great hero or some shit. There were never very many of them. There's still not very many of them. And the vast majority of people consider them to just be, again, sad, loser fuckwads. It's, I don't know. Sometimes it seems like people... I don't want to get off track. I really don't. But, it reminds me of something that a, one-time coworker of mine said about how she was sure that it was the end times that we were living in because in the end times, it's supposed to be nation against nation or whatever, and that's what she was seeing in the news. And it's like, honey, that's how it's always been. Like, you understand, throughout human history, it's been nation against nation. That's nothing new. But it does seem like some people don't bother checking to see, has this always been a thing? They just act like, oh, I'm seeing this for the first time, and that means it's new. Like, it's never been here before. I mean, I guess it was similar to me being red-pilled. It's like I started to recognize the kind of Marxist propaganda that was every goddamn where. And I'd never noticed it before. But I think I've mentioned this also. Going back and watching old TV shows and shit, I kind of noticed that there was a touch of that propaganda 30 years ago, 40 years ago, as far back as you go, probably. There's always been a touch, at least, of leftist propaganda in entertainment in this country. That is deeply unfortunate. And, as EBS has I believe probably mentioned, McCarthy was right. Should have let him get the fucking commies out of Hollywood. Unfortunately, they were allowed to take over the place completely.
In our society, where the warning signs were there for, in some cases, years, until they finally panned out exactly as expected with catastrophic results. And I really fear that we're heading towards that, because it's not just a group in Tennessee getting together to vote to ban a book about the Holocaust, which, look, it's about the language and the nudity. We all understand.
Wait a minute. She did a voice there, but what she said was it's about the language and the nudity. Was there bad language in the book? Was there nudity in the book? In which case, if it was available to elementary school students, then yeah, I can totally understand why they would ban it. I just sorry, just can't find a whole lot of sympathy for what leftists tend to complain about, like it's, you know, it's time to perhaps consider taking a hard line. It's like when Hard Bastard talks about it as, it's like, yeah, they want to ban the grooming pedophile shit from the schools. Like, tough shit, commie, get the fuck out of here.
Understand what this means. And if you don't, I really don't have time for you. It's just like if you...
Oh, but we have time for you, Jessi. Or at least I do.
Let me put it this way. If you don't understand how this move by the Tennessee School Board is anti-Semitic, then you're probably anti-Semitic.
Okay. And here we get to the crux of the problem, I guess? I don't know. Jessi, I don't fucking care whether the move by the school board is quote-unquote anti-Semitic. I don't care. Not one way or the other. It doesn't bother me if it is. It doesn't bother me if it's not. I don't fucking care. And increasingly, I don't fucking care whether anything anywhere is anti-Semitic. Because groups like the ADL and various others have used that term too many goddamn times. They've applied it to too many people, to too many situations. They have worn it thin. It's just like the leftists calling everybody a fucking racist. When everybody's a racist, nobody's a racist. It doesn't mean anything anymore. You call, everything, or at least everything that's even slightly, right wing, is considered by the ADL and whoever else as anti-Semitic, apparently. And I suspect a growing number of people in America are fucking tired of hearing the likes of you or the ADL or whoever bitching about it. We're fucking tired of that shit. It's like David Pakman, if anybody's familiar with him, leftist, quasi-independent. He's probably HB covers him all the time and has suspected for a while now that he's taking corporate cash to push corporate narrative. Anyway, which I don't doubt. But anyway, David Pakman is one of those people, and I don't know for sure what he's supposedly Jewish and supposedly Polish, but also supposedly Argentine. I don't know. I don't I have no fucking clue what, he seems to be maybe one of those people who changes their origin story from time to time. But anyway, but he's forever claiming that, this person on the right has dared to say something about George Soros. And anybody who knows about George Soros knows that he's a horrible piece of shit. Jews shouldn't like him because he fucking worked with the Nazis to round up the Jews. I mean, goddamn. But they don't care about that, I guess. I don't know. I don't know what the fuck's up with that shit, but whatever. He's been interviewed on CNN or wherever the fuck and fucking told people that it was the happiest time of his life when he was helping the Nazis, when he was working with the Nazis to fuck over his own people. Wow. and yet it's not like the Israelis are trying to hunt him down and kill him. Oh, hell no. It's like, as far as they're concerned, I guess he makes a lot of money for them or some shit. So it's like, pay off the right people and you're golden. Anyway. But, back to my point, George Soros does all kinds of god-awful shit to destabilize countries and so on and so forth. He's occasionally admitted it and even bragged about it. And somebody on the right talks about what a piece of shit he is, which he is. Again, Nazi collaborator, admitted, proud Nazi collaborator, George Soros. And yet David Pakman is forever talking about how, oh, this person on the right who said something about George Soros, oh, they're making an anti-Semitic attack against a Jewish billionaire. How dare they? It's like, okay. Anyway, but like I said, it's fucking bullshit. You know, all these constant complaints about this or that or the other being anti-Semitic. It's fucking bullshit, and people are getting tired of hearing it. I know I am, and I also know I'm not the only one. We're sick of this shit. We're sick of you using this rhetoric to try to always get your way or whatever. You know, the sympathy well, I'm sorry, is running dry. You know, like I said, you've gone to it too many times, and people are sick of it. And again, what, you know, it's not as though you're talking about, oh, a Jewish man was murdered in the street, and that was anti-Semitic. No. You're talking about a book that was about the Holocaust was banned in some school district in one state. And that's an anti-Semitic attack. You know, it's like somebody, I assume, you know, uses some sort of epithet against a Jew, and, oh, that's anti-Semitism. That means that person's evil. No, it doesn't. Doesn't mean they're evil. It means they're an asshole, perhaps, but that's not synonymous with evil. It's just, you know, I don't know what to say. It's, you know, it's like you call out people for saying mean things about your people. You know, how dare they criticize any Jew anywhere ever, apparently. I suggest what I suggest to all leftists who have a problem with other people exercising their freedom of speech or whatever. Develop a thicker fucking skin. You know? I mean, if some neo-Nazi comes charging at you, then by all means, run him through with your sword, Jessi. Or actually, I recommend, well, I would recommend that you move the fuck out of LA to a red state where you're allowed to defend yourself, and then, if somebody comes to attack you, neo-Nazi, whoever, blow them away. And you will have my full support in doing so. Because it's totally the right thing to do. If somebody's attacking you, and you kill in self-defense, that's perfectly okay. It's perfectly acceptable. Or at least it should be. And it is in, you know, areas of the country where people are reasonable. I.e., outside of Democrat-controlled areas where they, you know, seem to think that, oh, well, if we outlaw guns, then it'll stop all the gun crime. To which I say, well, maybe you should just outlaw murder. Oh, wait. Murder's already illegal, and yet people still do it. You take away their guns. First of all, you're not taking away the guns from the criminals, only from the law-abiding citizens. So all you're doing is making sure that the innocent people can't return fire. But even if you were able to take away the guns, people would just kill each other with knives or something else, you know? It's an assault knife. Anyway. Stupidity. Anyway, all right.
And that's all I need to say about that.
Yeah, that's all that she feels she needs to say is that it's anti-Semitic. Oh. Well, the problem there, as I said, is that increasingly people don't give a shit. And that's good, in my opinion. In my opinion, it will be great when fuck near nobody in this country gives a shit when someone is called anti-Semitic. They just roll their eyes and be like, yeah, sure, whatever, and go on about their day. That's how it should be. You know? And before anybody says that, oh, well, that means you're in favor of getting... Nope. Didn't say that. as I said, somebody tries to harm a Jewish person, it's no different than them harming a non-Jewish person. It's wrong. They try to do it. You have the right to defend yourself with lethal force. At least in places where the Constitution is still applicable. It applies where I live. And you can be damn sure that I will defend myself with lethal force if I deem it necessary. And I would suggest that people like Jessi, if she's afraid, move to some place where you're allowed to defend yourself, get a gun, and be prepared to use it. But again, don't be too quick to use it, because you don't want to be blowing away some dude who's just prattling, about how great Hitler was, standing there with his fucking, cardboard sign with a swastika on it. Some dude like that stands on the road, on the side of the road and talks about how great, the Fuhrer was or some shit. You don't get to shoot him, you shouldn't be afraid of some dipshit doing that. You should maybe be afraid for him. Because it's something ain't right in his life if he's doing that. But, afraid for yourself, I don't think that's necessary.
But it goes beyond that. I mean, just a few weeks ago, there was a holdup at a Texas a synagogue. There was a hostage situation. The suspect was killed. Obviously, the guy who did it was killed. And fortunately, none of the hostages were harmed. But that just happened, and there was a headline a little bit, but nobody's talking about it.
And you know why that is, Jessi? And this probably gives us a clue as to why, if there are other, occurrences of actual harm or potential harm being done to Jewish persons around the country, why it might not be being reported very broadly by the mainstream media. See, what happened in this instance that she's talking about is that a Texas synagogue was the site of a hostage situation, and the perpetrator was a Muslim. He was reported by the Young Turks and various others. They kind of tried, they say his name, which is obviously a Muslim name, Muhammad something or whatever the fuck, It's like clearly a Muslim name. But they all tried to kind of gloss over it by saying that he was a British national. But you see, that's why most places didn't want to talk about it, because it's not convenient to the narrative. Now, if this had been a white Christian Trump supporter who, for some fucking reason, I can't imagine what reason it could possibly have been, but if there had been such a person who had, committed this crime, then it would have been wall-to-wall coverage. They would not have shut the fuck up about how dangerous these white people are, how dangerous these Christians are, how dangerous these Trump supporters are. They would have been creaming themselves in the media to get a story like that, because that supports their narrative that white people are bad, that Christians are bad, that Trump supporters are bad. But this particular incident was a Muslim, I believe, trying to get another Muslim released from prison or something. Anyway, but whatever, Fortunately, no one was harmed except for the perpetrator. He was killed. I do believe that the rabbi who was held hostage, along with some other people. What are they called? Do they when it's they're Christians? You might call you'd call them what? A congregation or something? I don't know. Is it the same? I don't know. I don't know if there's a particular term. But anyway, but him and a couple of other people, were there, and I believe that after the fact, the rabbi said something about looking into beefing up security or whatever, which I hope means that he's either going to come to temple armed, maybe encourage the people to do so, or at the very least hire armed security guards or something. It's when you're stupid, as some people, some churches or synagogues or whatever are, and they're like, hey, this is a gun-free zone. all you've done is told any would-be attacker that you are a soft target. It's like, they don't have to worry about anybody returning fire when they, it's like, no, the smart people are like wasn't that also in a Texas town or something? I can't, or was it? I think it was Texas. It might have been someplace else. It might have been another neighboring state or something where there was this guy, I think he was a Baptist preacher, was like, yeah, I come to church armed, and I encourage every member of the congregation to do so. It's like, they're not going to be a soft target. I mean, it's just simple logic. It's like, I know that a lot of people think of anyone who would resort to, taking people hostage or shooting people or whatever, for whatever reason, that, there's a tendency to think of that person as a mad gunman. But very few of them are actually like completely insane where they have no self-preservation instinct left or anything. So just imagine, if you will, what a deterrence it is if a would-be gunman is aware that every single person, at least every single adult person, any place that they're going to go, is likely armed and capable of returning fire. That changes the calculus a great deal, doesn't it? As to whether or not you're going to go in and try to massacre people or rob the place or hold people hostage. Like, if everybody's got a gun, how likely are you to pull yours? An armed populace is a polite populace. Anyway. But yes, that would be why, and it's quite possible that if Jewish people are being assaulted, like the way that Rick Moranis was assaulted out of the fucking blue. The poor man was walking along the sidewalk in New York or wherever, where he lives, and, some black dude just comes up and shoves him into a wall or a window or whatever, and it's like, what the fuck? But, if that probably only saw the light of day as much as it did because he was famous. Because it's Rick Moranis. And people, still remember him, even though he's been out of show business for a long time. I believe his wife died of cancer or something, I think, and he quit show business to take care of his kids. Anyway, but that's probably only because he was, famous person, or at least used to be, that anybody who talked about that. And if it was just some random Jewish person, then probably fair likelihood that no one would have been talking about it because it isn't convenient to the narrative of white people bad. It's like, even if the perpetrator happens to be a black Christian, that's not quite enough to fit the narrative. They can't really play up the Christian angle unless it's a white guy. So if it's a black dude who's a Christian who assaults some Jew, then it's like, well, we can't really run with that. So, that's possibly why some of these stories, at least, not getting quite the traction that they would, because the perpetrators are the wrong ethnicity, the wrong religion, of the wrong political persuasion, and it just doesn't fit the mainstream narrative. Now, Jessi, for all the criticism that I can, level at her, I wouldn't have thought that she's actually stupid. So one would hope that if she at least considered it, and possibly that's the problem, she's just not thinking about it very critically, she might realize some of this. You'd think. But again, that is the trick. As a former leftist, I can testify to that. That is the trick of how the left keeps you an obedient little leftist, is they always appeal to your emotions and never to your reason. Because they don't want you thinking critically about anything, because you might realize that all of their bullshit is exactly that, bullshit.
Nobody's putting it in the news. The stories aren't there. Meanwhile, just in the news days before this nonsense, 3 separate cities across the country, Miami, Denver, San Francisco, literally spread across the country, all overnight had hundreds or thousands of anti-Semitic flyers with this, using the same language, the same graphics, the same markers were distributed in these cities in a coordinated effort.
And how many people do you think it actually took to coordinate that? It wouldn't have taken very many. I don't think it's any cause for every Jew in the country to panic. Probably not for any Jew in the country to panic, unless you happen to know that, yeah, like basically all of my neighbors have swastika tattoos. maybe then it's time to consider panicking. But but for everybody else, it's like, I doubt it. I just don't think it's a problem. You know, got more to fear, or had more to fear. He's gone now, but I'm sure that the dipshit that replaced him is not any better. I have more to fear from the governor of New York, you know, if you're a Jew, than from, you know, wacko neo-Nazi shitheads.
That is unquestionably, you're talking about a coordinated group of people in multiple cities in the country who carried out an act of anti-Semitism. Boom.
Okay, so wait a minute. Now, an act of what did she say? Now, she said that there were flyers, right? Isn't that what she said? She just said there were flyers. She didn't say anything about assaults on people or even, I don't believe she even mentioned, like, you know, vandalism, you know, like graffiti on Jewish businesses or anything like that. I don't think she said anything about that. I think she said flyers. So, anti-Jewish flyers. Jessi, I mean, First Amendment, freedom of the press, actually. And for anybody who happens to be aware of this, freedom of the press does not mean corporate media. Freedom of the press literally refers to the printing press. So in other words, it's freedom of speech via mechanical means. That's what that actually means. So anyway, yeah, you know, it's like they decided to print up a bunch of flyers and distribute them. That's an act of anti-Semitism, them exercising their First Amendment rights. I think I'm detecting another reason why the rhetoric of the ADL and other lefty people is wearing thin on Americans. Because your insistence on, you know, well, this can't be allowed. People can't be allowed to print anti-Jewish flyers and distribute them, except the Constitution expressly says that they can. So you're being anti-American. You're, you know, the ADL and whoever else that tries to silence people, tries to keep people from exercising their constitutionally protected rights. They're engaging in anti-Americanism. An act of anti-American bigotry. It's not appreciated, Jessi. And people are getting really tired of it.
And I didn't even know until I started digging into this, because it was nowhere in the news, even though it was in my own goddamn backyard, that back in December, this...
In L.A., apparently, I guess.
Same shit, these same flyers with language and markers that indicate that it is the same people were distributed in Santa Monica, in Pasadena, in other cities, in Los Angeles.
Yeah, see, the way that she's talking, it's clear that she considers that this is alarming because, or at least she wants you to believe, you know, I'll give her the benefit of the doubt and I'll assume that she really believes it herself, that she believes this is an indicator that, oh, you know, it's a huge group. There's so many people. They're all over the place. Blah, 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 blah. But it's equally plausible that because it all appears to be coming from the same group of people, that there's not that many people involved. It's a small organization that just happens to, you know, communicate across the internet like everybody does these days. Not that difficult to print off a bunch of flyers and, you know, take them around town. It's not that big of a job. You don't need tens of thousands of people or even thousands of people. Probably they don't even need hundreds of people. Dozens, maybe. Yeah. I don't think it's cause for concern, Jessi. I really don't. So, I don't think you should be as worked up about this as you are. You certainly shouldn't live in fear because of it. And, like I said, if you really are afraid, then consider moving to some place that allows you to exercise your Second Amendment rights to defend yourself.
And nobody's talking about it. Nobody's saying anything about it. Nobody is connecting the dots or putting the pieces together or understanding what's happening here, which is that there is a rise in anti-Semitism that is now...
Yes, I will agree with you there. There is a rise. And mostly what I've seen of it is on the internet. Now, admittedly, there are a lot of people who are supposedly right-leaning or right-wing or whatever who seem to unironically think the Nazis were the good guys or some shit because they've kind of gone in for the whole Zionist conspiracy theory bullshit, which I don't go in for. I mean, I don't trust the Israeli government. You know, I believe, like most governments, they fucking suck. And they seem to really desperately be trying, as they always have, it seems, since, well, I guess basically since since Israel started existing again as a country, been trying to manipulate the United States into bombing, their various neighbors, or also their enemies usually, out of existence, or at least bombing them out of action, shall we say. Like they have been warning for like 30 years, I believe, that the Iranians are going to have a nuke any day now. Well, they still don't, but they've been warning about it, decades, because they want America to go to war with Iran, because they stupidly think that will make them safer, but it really won't. But there's the rub. The Israeli government is no different from any other government. They tend to be really fucking dumb and often think that this will be good for us. And if they actually get it, they'll find that, nope, it wasn't. Anyway, of course, their capacity to learn from their mistakes is probably quite limited, just like our own government never learns from its fucking mistakes. Anyway. But yes, there is a rise of general anti-Semitic sentiment, or anti-Jewish sentiment, whatever. And frankly, I suspect that it's at least partially down to the fact that there are so many Jews, or at least so many vociferous Jewish groups, like the ADL and whoever, that just won't shut the fuck up about how this is anti-Semitic, and that's anti-Semitic, and that's anti-Semitic. It's like, you must all stop utilizing your First Amendment rights. It's like, look, you want to go after people for actually assaulting people. It's like, I mean, obviously, Jewish groups, they want to focus only on, things that happen to Jews. Fair enough. But you want to, it's like you want to go after people who are actually committing crimes, like real crimes, like they've assaulted, they've beaten somebody up, or they've killed someone, or whatever. It's like, okay, I get it. That's perfectly reasonable. But you want to try to silence people who are speaking out against your ethnic group or whatever just because you don't like it? No, that's not okay. It's, it's like, it's not a crime. Like, what you're complaining about, they're not committing a crime. They're not actually harming you, or if they are, it's not directly. I'm sure that they'd complain that, oh well, I mean, you got all the fucking Republicans wanting to support, fucking bills and bullshit in Congress about how, oh, we want to ban any attempt to boycott Israel, and it's like, wait a minute, people should be allowed to boycott Israel if they want. I mean, I'm not going to. I mean, I don't know of any Israeli products that I buy currently, but I certainly wouldn't specifically stop buying them, because I don't care enough. I'm sorry. I'm sure that like I said, I know that Israel does bad things. I certainly don't trust their fucking government, but I'm not going to be like, oh, well, I'm going to boycott all Jewish businesses everywhere because I don't like the, nope, not going to do that. I don't fucking care. But if somebody does care and they want to, and it's usually leftists really who want to, boycott the Israeli government because they're, because as much as the Jews are supposedly on their side, I guess, they're still like, yeah, but we like the Muslims more, even though the Muslims hate the gays and the Jews and everybody else who's on the fucking left. I don't know. It's it's just ridiculous. But anyway, leftism is ridiculous. Anyway, all right, let's get back to this. But like I said, it's yes, there is a rise in anti-Jewish sentiment, but I think it's at least in part because of rhetoric from Jews calling everybody an anti-Semite because they dare to speak out against Jews. It's like, I don't know what to tell you, man. It's like, why is it so difficult for you to just ignore criticism or address it directly? Instead, you're like, we must silence all criticism. Why? What are you afraid of? I guess they would like us to believe, at least, that they're afraid of another Holocaust. Well, I think I can guarantee you that's not going to fucking happen. There's too many people in America who like Jews to a sufficient extent. Again, especially on the right, on the political right, there's enough people, armed people, who like Jews who are not going to let that fucking happen. So get over it. Fucking unclench your sphincters and relax. And again, there are people like Jessi who probably are just mistaken, shall we say. And then there's ass wipes like, what's his dick that heads the ADL, who probably knows the score, knows that all of this is just a bunch of, bullshit to try to silence their political adversaries. And like I said, that's pissing a lot of people off. And rightfully so.
Gotten to the point where it's not just going up. You can go back in my videos over the past years. Like I said, I try to report on this shit because it affects me personally. I am Jewish, in case that wasn't clear.
The past how many years?
And I am afraid. You can go back in my videos over the past several years. Like I said, I try to report on this shit because it affects me personally. Number. I am Jewish, in case that wasn't clear. And I am afraid because it was just isolated incidents. Again,
I am sorry, Jessi. I really am sorry that you're afraid, but you shouldn't be. That you really shouldn't be. You should fucking relax. There's not going to be another Holocaust, certainly at least not in America. You are very unlikely to be in any imminent danger yourself. And as I said, the most important thing for you to ensure that you're not in danger is to, instead of living in a big blue city in a big blue state where they don't want you to defend yourself if you're attacked, move to a red area. I mean, even just moving to rural California would probably be a benefit, but, move to a red state. And, of course, I don't really want to say that because she's a fucking leftist, and I don't want her moving to a red state and then voting for fucking Democrats. How about this, Jessi? Change your fucking political ideology. Wake the fuck up, pull your head out of your ass, wipe the shit out of your eyes, take a good look around, and recognize the truth for a fucking change. The truth is, the right, by and large, embraces reality. And the left, bunch of Looney Tunes bullshit over there. I'm so glad that I am no longer, I no longer believe any of their fucking rhetoric anymore. I'm so glad I got out of that. I mean, I was never part of a cult like HB was, but, I can see how, the left is kind of like a fucking cult. Whew. Anyway, but yeah, there's no way for me to magically red pill you, It's probably never going to happen, unfortunately. I don't imagine she's ever going to get red-pilled. But she would be so much happier. And that's a statistical reality. People on the right are happier than people on the left. You know? Tend to be happier, tend to be friendlier, tend to be more generous, tend to... across the board, it's just better for you to be a right-winger. You know, despite all... regardless of the bullshit that the left says about the right, it's like, us on the right, we're actually pretty nice people. We really are. If you joined us, Jessi, you'd be happier. I mean, you'd be also upset at how basically the entire media is a bunch of leftist shitbags, but you would be ultimately happier. So, I mean, I don't hold out any hope really for that to happen, but that would be the best thing for her, in my opinion.
Incidences, one here, one there, and now they are increasing in quantity, in some cases in severity. They are going underreported left, right, and center, and now...
Well, as... wow, that's a good one. That's a good pause face. But yes, as I already said, it's like, it's quite... I don't know, but it's quite possible that if they really are being underreported by the mainstream media, then there's a good chance, in my opinion, that at least some of these crimes may be being committed by people that, again, are of the wrong identity group. If they're black, or if they're Muslim, or whatever, it's not going to play well. It's not going to play into their narrative. So of course they're going to avoid talking about it. The other thing to consider, unfortunately for the Jews in general, is that maybe the left doesn't care enough about you anymore as an identity group. Maybe, she mentioned it, or maybe she is going to mention it. I think she does mention it in this video someplace about how few Jews there are. Maybe the left doesn't think that you represent enough of a voting bloc to pander to anymore. So all their time's eaten up with pandering to different identity groups. That is something you might want to consider, because that's the way the game is played on the left.
They're getting coordinated. What happens when somebody tests a line and there are no consequences for when they cross it?
Okay, what line, though? What line's being tested? Are you talking about the distributing flyers that are anti-Jewish in nature? That's not illegal. Again, that is exercising their freedom of speech. There's no line there. You talking about the school board that banned a single book about the Holocaust? Possibly, based on what you just said about it, because there was, like, nudity in it or something? Or bad language? Don't know. You know, it's like... Again, it's like what she's talking about is basically just, you know, I don't know. It's like very low-level shit. It's not something that anybody in their right mind would really worry about. You know, it's not like she's saying, oh, you know, they broke this one old Jewish guy's foot and nobody did anything. It's like, nope, you're not complaining about that. Like that, I would be totally in support of, well, yeah, something should be done because that's a crime. That's something awful. You don't want to see that happening to anybody. But you're not saying that. You're talking about one school board in one fucking state, a long way from you, by the way, that banned one book. And you're talking about, you know, handful of dipshits scattered across the country who distributed, you know, anti-Semitic flyers. So what? You know how much anti-white rhetoric there is in this country at the moment, Jessi? How much anti-male rhetoric there is. How much anti-Christian rhetoric there is. How much anti-Trump supporter rhetoric there is. A fuck ton. Some of it comes from you. But as a white male Christian Trump supporter, I'm not overly bothered by any of this bullshit, because I recognize that As long as you're not actually coming to beat the shit out of me or something, I don't have a problem. As long as all you're doing is spewing hate towards me, I can take it. Why can't you? Not that we're, by and large on the right, even doing that. I'm certainly not. I'm not spewing hatred towards you. And if any of it seems like hate, it's really just criticism, but some people can't tell the difference, apparently. Anyway.
They find a new wine.
So far, the line is concerned parents going to a school board, I suppose, and the school board exercising their duly elected powers or whatever to ban a book, and people, anonymous people, I suppose. I mean, probably not if you dug into it, but she didn't do that, I guess, because she didn't give us any names. Printing up flyers and exercising their First Amendment rights. So far that's the line that's being tested, is totally within the bounds of the law.
Lines are being crossed.
No, Jessi. Based on what you've said, no lines have been crossed. Not any legal lines, at least. And that, frankly, is what fucking matters. Why can't you see that? It's because, I guess it's because they just don't teach critical thinking. God.
Boundaries of decency are being pushed and then...
There are some laws that relate to decency, but not in the two specific cases that you're talking about. Like, there's nothing that would be considered like legally indecent about saying, the Jews are bad people, on a flyer, or saying we're going to ban this book because it's got language and nudity in it. It's like,
and destroyed, and nobody is saying anything about it.
Well, I've already outlined why the media might not be covering it, but why other people, or ordinary people, might not be covering it or worried about it or whatever is probably because it doesn't sound like it's too worrying. And also it doesn't sound like it's probably anything that's especially different from things that have happened all along. Maybe you didn't notice it before, or maybe it was before your time or whatever, but I feel certain people have distributed anti-Semitic flyers in the past. Did we have a great big, Nazi movement take over the country and kill a bunch of Jews? No. Are we likely to in the foreseeable future? No. So, don't get your knickers in a twist.
Where is the social justice outcry?
Oh, and now we're appealing to the SJWs, are we? Good luck with that.
For this coordinated and malicious of an attack against a vulnerable community.
Vulnerable to words? Is that what I mean, again, I don't think she's addressed any, assaults or certainly not any murders or anything. Like, she's just talking about people saying mean things. Essentially, that's all. That's all she's talking about.
Where is the social justice outcry against book banning and an obvious attempt?
Well, they're too busy complaining about all the pedophile shit that's being banned to be concerned about any Holocaust stuff being banned. They really want to fuck the kids. I'm sorry, Jessi, but the Holocaust is not the priority for the insane far left-wing people these days. They're more concerned with molesting children.
Obvious step towards Holocaust denial.
I don't think you're going to find enough people denying the Holocaust to make a shit. There are some people who do deny it, and I don't understand why, because there's plenty of evidence to indicate that it happened. Of course, I'm sure that the ADL and whoever else would happily say that if you deny the exact figure of 6 million, that you're denying the Holocaust. And I've already pointed out, I believe, in a previous video at some point, I believe I mentioned that probably the number wasn't exactly that. Don't know what it was. It might very well have been much lower. Might have been a little bit higher. Don't know. But there's a good chance that a considerable number, not sure how many, but a considerable number, significant number, of the deaths attributed to the Nazi Holocaust, their extermination of the Jews, might actually have been collateral damage from Allied bombing efforts. It may not have been that that they actually executed all of the people who died in the camps. It could be quite a number of them starved to death because the Allies destroyed the Nazi infrastructure and they couldn't supply the prisoners with food. It's possible. That's tragic, but that's why, it's something that happens in war. War's a messy business, which is why you shouldn't fucking want it. Should always be, a last resort. Unfortunately, it's another thing, you never know, how many, if somebody's listening to this in the future, hopefully that's an indicator that we didn't have, like, a third world war and we didn't see any nukes fly because the dipshit regime that's in charge of our country right now seems hell-bent on fighting a war with Russia or China or both. Hopefully that didn't happen. You never know.
Where is the care?
But again, you can't live in fear. So, even though that's something to be legitimately concerned about, I'm not really afraid of it. If we get nuked, we get nuked. Oh well.
Or concern or thought or worry on either side of the fence. On anybody who claims to give a crap about their constituents.
I guess she's talking about politicians specifically, since she's talking about constituents. I don't know. I mean, the politicians are busy with a lot of things. Most of it's bullshit, but occasionally it's something real. But this is probably none of them think that this is a big deal. And they're probably right for a change.
Not a single person in power is speaking up about this in any way that matters.
Sorry, it's not like they'd actually do anything about it. They might talk about it, but they're not going to fucking do anything. And what could they do? I mean, based on what you've talked about, what do you want them to do? Arrest the school board for exercising their authority. Arrest the parents for criticizing a book. Arrest the people for putting out a flyer, which is protected under the First Amendment. Again, this is...
Where are all the prominent Jews now? Seth Rogen can run his mouth all he wants about social justice this, social justice that. No one is going to attack you in the streets of Los Angeles, Seth Rogen, for being...
Well, he's a piece of shit. Why would you expect him to to do anything positive?
Being a lefty. But guess what? Last year, months ago, people were physically assaulted in this very city simply for answering yes to the question, are you Jewish?
Aha! So we finally have something that's an actual crime. Unfortunately, I don't believe she's going to offer us any details, so I don't I don't know what to do about that.
If you don't let people know that these actions and behaviors are unacceptable, they will keep doing them. And they will find a new line and they will cross it and it will escalate. People have already been hurt. People have already been killed.
Wait a minute, who's been killed? You've only talked about people being hit, right? Unless that was a powerful fucking punch. I don't think anybody died from just that. So, what are we discussing? Give us a specific, Jessi.
When will it be enough?
No specifics. See, she's not going to tell us. So I don't know who's been killed, and I don't know what she's talking about. It'd be nice if she'd share some fucking information. Share some goddamn details, honey. Learn to do that. It's not that difficult, surely. It's like, I mean, you got your, your cool green screen shit behind you and stuff that I certainly don't that I certainly don't have. So you'd think you'd be able to have the facts at your fingertips on a tablet or something and read them off in front of the camera.
For somebody who has the authority to do something, to actually give a shit. We can protest and burn cities down when injustices are done against certain vulnerable members of the population.
Oh, careful there, Jessi. You're being racist against the blacks. Although most of those protests are a bunch of bullshit because they usually don't protest people who've actually been killed, unjustly. And they usually only protest when it was, some idiot decided to commit suicide, either by opening fire on the cops or overdosing on drugs or whatever. I don't know how it is that they managed to only ever protest the deaths that weren't the cops' fault. But the ones that actually are the cops' fault, which definitely happen, we don't. Somehow they don't manage to burn cities down over those. They're always wrong. Oh. And
already been killed.
Yeah, see, it'd be really helpful if she'd tell us who, or I mean, she said this city, I think, so that's Los Angeles, I believe, for people getting punched for saying that they were Jewish. And I would be kind of interested to know the ethnicity of the attackers. Could they perhaps have been, similar ethnicity to the this is MAGA country guys that attacked Juicy Smollett? Anyway.
When will it be enough for somebody who has the authority to do something to actually give a shit?
Well, people in authority don't give a shit, Jessi. That's just the way that it works. Very few people who are in positions of power actually care about people who are not in positions of power. And they pander a little bit to get votes or whatever, if that's even necessary anymore. But they really don't care about the common man or woman. They don't care. And also, this is another problem with just leftist thinking. They always want big daddy government to solve their problems for them. They always want, the authorities to come in and fix something. So, that's collectivist for you. Embrace individualism, Jessi. You'll be better off.
We can protest and burn cities down when injustices are done against certain vulnerable members of the population who exist in spades in larger communities than the Jews. There are fewer Jews left in the entire world than there are.
Well, maybe that's because there's too many of them like you that are choosing not to have children. Because as far as I know, Jessi doesn't have any kids. And as far as I know, she doesn't seem to have any plans to have kids. She's another one of these lefties who's like, I'm a cat mom or whatever. And it's like, that's not a substitute for motherhood. I mean, having cats is fine and dandy. I have a cat, but I don't consider myself a cat dad. So, yeah. Have babies. Have babies, Jessi.
Are gay people in the United States?
Maybe, although I'm sure that the gay numbers have been massively inflated to serve the narrative. That's assuming that they're counting only actually, like gay. Not counting bisexuals in that, because I suspect there's a huge unaccounted for bisexual population. But anyway, we won't go into that. I've talked about that before in a separate video.
So if you don't think we're a vulnerable community, who the fuck is?
Well, make smarter choices is all I can tell you, I guess. You know, stop being so fucking antagonistic to everybody. Stop whining about how people have done you bad. Instead, concentrate on being nice to people, earning, some friendship. And then people will have your fucking back. You know?
I am afraid.
I've given you my best advice on that. All I can tell you is that I don't think you should be. And there are steps that you can take to make yourself, to put yourself in less peril. Not that I think that you're in extreme peril as it is, but although it is worth considering that there is a high probability of systemic economic collapse in the near future and the dissolution of the United States, and you're not going to want to live in a big liberal city. I mean, all big cities are liberal, but you're not going to want to live in a big city when that happens, because when the shit hits the fan, big city going to be ground zero for all the chaos that will ensue. So yeah, probably should move to a rural area. Just saying.
Because I'm not a moron.
Well, I didn't think that you were, although I definitely, as I have said, I think you're not thinking, critically about this. You're not actually analyzing the situation properly. You may think that you're analyzing it, but you just anyway.
Understand what's happening here, and I understand.
I don't think you do.
And that it is going to keep happening until we.
People are going to keep exercising their freedom of speech? I suspect so. People are going to keep banning books that they believe are offensive and they don't wish their children to read? Probably so. There will be, obviously, random assaults and murders. Those things happen all the time. To the extent that your community is specifically targeted, I'm sorry about that. But, nothing I can do about it. Like I said, get red-pilled, move to a rural area, buy some guns. Be better for you all around.
We take a stand against it, so this is my stand. This is me saying unequivocally, it stops.
And I'm guessing you're going to do absolutely dick about it, except for ranting on Twitter and YouTube. Well, your bitching on social media is not going to accomplish anything, Jessi. I'm sorry. It's just not.
You don't bring this shit to my doorstep. Because if...
Well, again, you should own a gun, and you should be in a place where they allow you to own a gun and to use it for self-defense. And then if somebody literally brings it to your doorstep, you can shoot them. Like any normal, self-respecting American would do. Well, actually, I think they really probably need to bring it inside your door, technically. I don't think you shoot them through the door. But as soon as they... But I've been told by local law enforcement, once they cross the threshold and they're in your house and they've broken in, their ass is yours. You can blow them away. Nobody's going to say a word about it. So, that sounds good to me.
You do, you will not like the result. I will not roll over. I will not go down without a fight. And I will not sit by while the world once again, doesn't give a shit about my people.
Well, I fully support your right to exercise your freedom of speech. And I fully support your right to exercise your freedom of self-defense. So I hope that you exercise both your First and Second Amendment rights, which were given to you by God, by the way, so they can't be taken away by government, not legally. And they're protected by the Constitution, but they weren't granted by the Constitution. They were granted by God. They are natural rights. So if your local state or municipality attempts to infringe on those rights, they're in the wrong. And I advise you to get the fuck out of there. Or just ignore them, although be aware that if you choose to exercise rights that they're choosing to infringe upon, that they will probably put you wrongfully in prison. Because they suck. That's why we need as little government as possible. I don't believe in anarchy, because that won't work, because humans, it would require human nature to be different than it is. So we have to have some minimal level of government, but it needs to be very minimal. And hopefully, at least some of us will enjoy a much more limited form of government in whatever successor states we find ourselves in after the collapse of the United States as a political entity. In the, I suspect, rather near future, but we'll see. Maybe it'll last longer than I expect.
It's the oldest fucking joke. Nobody cares about the Jews.
Is that an old joke? I mean, I've heard the occasional joke about Jews or whatever, but I don't recall ever hearing one about nobody caring about the Jews. It's mostly, it seems like, everyone is pressured to care an inordinate amount about the Jews. Like we're supposed to feel really bad for them because of the Holocaust, and it's like, well, I kind of do, but it's like we're not there yet, but it's worth considering that it's been nearly 80 years, hasn't it, since the end of the Second World War. The Holocaust will soon pass out of living memory, meaning there will be no one left alive who actually experienced it. And it will, over the coming decades, become like slavery has been for a long time, where the people complaining about it as though it was something that happened to them definitely were not alive when it was a thing. So at some point, you really just need to let it drop and move the fuck on. Like I said, learn from the past. Yes, we don't want to repeat those things. We don't want to have slavery again. We don't want to have the Holocaust again. But that's different from, using it as a cudgel against others forevermore. It's like, no, just get over it.
Why is it a punchline that always works? Because the best comedy always is rooted in truth.
Well, I'd agree with the comedy rooted in truth stuff, or at least the perception of truth, of course. Because as I said before, on some video that I did, maybe several videos at this point, I remember thinking that a lot of left-wing comedy was really funny, and then after I got red-pilled and realized that they were actually fucking lying about all kinds of shit, it suddenly wasn't funny anymore. Yeah, it's too bad. Anyway, but I'm still unaware of this whole, the Jews are the punchline or whatever crap she's talking about. I don't know what she's talking about. I assume YouTube probably won't allow you to post rude anti-Semitic jokes or something in the comments section. But if anybody wants to tell me if they're actually, just as a general statement, is there is this something that I'm just not aware of about the Jews? Like they're like the oldest punchline, or so, I don't get the reference. So if anybody wants to clue me in on that or something.
That's the truth. That's the world. We ain't at comedy yet, though. Comedy is tragedy plus time. This is tragedy. We ain't had time yet.
I don't think we've had tragedy yet. I mean, if somebody has been killed or whatever, then it's like, okay, yeah, but you're talking about minor, but she's trying to talk like there's going to be another Holocaust or something, and it's like, I don't see that happening. I really don't. I don't think so.
It's not. I digress. This is not tragedy yet, but it's fucking heading there.
Okay. Headed there. Maybe. But again, I doubt it. I really doubt it. But if you're deeply concerned, then like I said, there are the options that I've already laid out for you. Or, I suppose, if you're Jewish, you can exercise your right of return and you can move to Israel. I don't know that would be safer, though. I kind of feel like you might be safer here.
So put the jokes aside, start waking up, start looking for the information, and start making sure that the people in your community who are actually vulnerable are protected.
I think there may be some Jewish people around where I live, but I don't know any of them personally. I have a friend who moved away who said that he had a Jewish friend, but he never introduced me. So I don't know. But it's not. Well, that's the thing, though, about self-defense, Jessi, which you may not fully appreciate since you're a leftist. But the right to self-defense, it's also kind of a responsibility, because it's not it actually is not the cops' responsibility to protect you, not proactively at least. It's they're there to maintain order, and if they happen to be there at the right time, they might stop a murder from happening. But at the same time, it's not really their responsibility to provide you with round-the-clock protection if you believe you're under threat. Instead, it's more like their real responsibility is to investigate your murder and hopefully find who killed you after you're dead. So it's really on you to protect yourself. And a little bit of a lesson. Pretty sure it was a lesson that Jesus was attempting to impart at one point. About priorities. You need to protect your own first and foremost. That doesn't mean that you don't help other people, but you help yourself first, because no matter what your good intentions might be, if you always feed your neighbor's children at the expense of your own, then eventually yours will starve. So you got to look after your own first, and then once you have secured you and yours, then you can go and help other people. So, my primary responsibility is to myself and my family and my friends, and then, only then, my larger community. It's not my responsibility to try to figure out who's the most vulnerable in my community and, guard them first and foremost. That's not how it works. It's their responsibility to guard themselves first and foremost. Anyway.
And that's all I have to say today. Thank you for listening. God Empress out.
Okay. So, there's that. Now, again, she didn't fucking provide us with any information in the video. However, let's see. Not that. Here. There we go. 10 hours ago, she did at least post this. I'm not going to go through her entire Twitter, history or whatever. So we'll just hit this one, I guess. So 10 hours ago, she says, "This happened in our country over the weekend. One Orlando news outlet reported. The UK reported. Jerusalem reported. The rest of the world was silent." Well, the rest of the world probably is a bit more concerned about the possibility of, World War III breaking out. Without even offering condemnation of these events, how do people expect anything but more? Now, this is, in my opinion, a little bit hilarious. Shocking footage captures Florida Nazis. This is a criticism, by the way, of both the people who are describing themselves presumably as Nazis and carrying swastikas or whatever, and also other people who are talking about them as being Nazis. Nazi is short form for the National Socialist German Workers' Party. It is a defunct political group. There are no more Nazis. And even when they existed, it was exclusively a German thing. So unless these people are full-blooded or nearly full-blooded Germans, they wouldn't really fit in that group in the first place. So, and also, the concept of generic whiteness is not something that exists elsewhere. It is pretty much a New World thing, where we think of white people as just being white. Who white? In Europe, you're not of the white race, you're of the German race, or the French race, or the English race, or the Irish race, etc., etc. So, anyway, a lot of failure to understand things. Although, this is, the stupidity of America is flooding back to the old world, it seems, because this is the Daily Mail out of the UK. Talking about Florida Nazis chanting white power. I mean, again, it's just ridiculous on the face of it. And harassing black and Jewish people during Orlando rally. This guy, these are shitty photos, but this guy with a swastika hat on appears to be holding a megaphone that says InfoWars on it. I would like to point out for the record that as far as I'm aware, Alex Jones, who runs InfoWars, is pretty vehemently anti-Nazi. He hates the Nazis. So he in no way endorses these fucks, I can guarantee you that. Even if they like him, he don't like them. So, anyway. National Socialist Movement, this is another thing to consider. There are neo-Nazi groups or whatever in America, and they often masquerade, or maybe they even really believe that they belong on the right wing, but of course they don't. Socialist, there's the clue right there. And, the Nazis were National Socialists, and a lot of people try to say that, oh, national, that means it was right. No. National was the one word in there that did make it maybe sound a little bit right-wing, but you stop being a nationalist the moment you start invading other countries, because that makes you an imperialist, not a nationalist. Anyway, but yeah, a lot of these, not neo-Nazis or whatever the fuck you want to call them, they really are a bunch of leftist dipshits. They want single-payer health care. But because they're racist, they want it for whites only. It's just so fucking stupid. Anyway, maybe that flag looks like it's that flag, so that's one guy there, and a second guy, and I don't know if is that the same guy? I can't tell. And then a third guy, and are these people in the background part of this, or are they part of something else? I don't know, but let's assume that they are part of it. So that's 2, 4, 6, 8? You're looking at basically like a dozen people. And not exactly, a Nuremberg rally or whatever the fuck. Videos of neo-Nazis at a rally in Orlando, Florida surfaced online this weekend. Okay, so what? White supremacists, and forgive me if I'm wrong, but I believe that the excellent Florida governor, didn't he put into effect a thing where if protesters block the roadway, you're allowed to run them over with your car or something like that? Maybe only if they're attacking your vehicle or something, I'm not sure, but something like that. You can actually run them over without getting in trouble. So there you go. It's like, thanks to the Republican governor of Florida, if these Nazi fuckers tried to attack you in your car on the roadway, you can run them down. White supremacists waving Nazi flags were heard shouting anti-Semitic slurs. Again, if they were attacking, not with words, attacking with weapons or fists or whatever, Jewish people or black people or whoever, that would be a problem. But if all they're doing is shouting hateful things, so what? Clips on social media also saw demonstrators stomping on an Israeli flag. Nobody gives a good goddamn when they stomp on an American flag at all the leftist protests. Not that I consider this to be a right-wing protest, by the way. I just went through that. These are leftists. I don't care whether they call themselves right-wing. I don't care whether they fucking vote Republican or whatever. These idiots, if they're socialists, they are collectivists, and that makes them leftists. Fuck them. Fuck them without lube. Fuck them with a rusty chainsaw, in fact. Horrifying. Let's see, this is ridiculous. Horrifying footage of white supremacists at a neo-Nazi rally in Orlando, Florida has emerged on social media. These are presumably clips from the video or something. Is anyone horrified? I'm not horrified. I wouldn't be horrified if I saw this in person, let alone saw it on the fucking internet. You'd have to be a real fucking snowflake to be horrified at a dozen dipshits who don't even know which side of the aisle they're on. You know, these are just... These people are just sad. Pathetic. I'm not worried. The hate group shouted anti-Semitic slurs, don't care, referring to Jewish people as the devil. They're welcome to express their opinion. Expressed anti-black sentiments and waved Nazi flags. As far as I'm aware, all of that is perfectly legal. You know, as long as they're not attacking anybody, you know, physically. As long as they're not committing any crimes, then no one should have a problem with it. Just flip them the bird and walk on. The clips from Saturday, including one where the group could be seen stomping on an Israeli flag. So? And chanted about white power, again, stupid, were widely condemned online. There's nothing wrong with condemning them, but, again, pretty sure that what they were doing was legal, so... another picture. He's not out in the roadway, so... Those at the rally chanted hateful phrases, including, "The Jew is the devil." I'm not sure what the hell that's supposed to mean. The Jew? The Jew is the devil. Well, no. Lucifer is the devil, and he's not Jewish. Jews rape children and drink their blood. Well, I can't say for certain that there aren't any of them, Soros, who might do that. I don't know. Jews brought slaves here. That's true. You know, I mean, that's it. That's an historical fact. What the, you know, what do you expect? Oh, here's a nice wide angle shot. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Yeah, about 10 or 11 people, basically. That's it. You got like 10 or 11 people. It's so horrifying. Honestly, if you drove by and you were actually paying attention to the road and driving, as you should be, you probably wouldn't have even noticed. Like, maybe caught out of the corner of your eye and be like, what the fuck? But that's about it. The gathering took place just 2 days after International Holocaust Remembrance Day. Okay. So, campaign group StopAntisemitism.org tweeted photos. Stop anti-Semitism. You know, if somebody started a website that was you know, stop anti-white hatred or something like that, you know, they'd be condemned as being a white supremacist movement or something. You know, all this shit only goes one direction, doesn't it, with the leftists? Fuck them all. Tweeted photos and videos from the rally with the caption, it should be an horrific, that's bad grammar. An horrific anti-Semitic, anti-black rally is happening right now in Florida, attracting all of a dozen people or so. Florida, orchestrated by white supremacist Eddie McBride and his group NSM. NSM. Never heard of it. Why are local PD allowing this? Probably because it's perfectly fucking legal. Probably. I mean, I don't know, but I suspect it's fucking legal. They're exercising their First Amendment right. You're welcome to exercise yours as well. But as long as they're not committing a crime, why do you have a problem with it? You know, even when the leftists are committing crimes, when they're fucking rioting and burning down cities, you know, the leftist, you know, propagandist bastards in the media are always like, oh, it's mostly peaceful. It's not something anybody should be, you know, up in arms about. You know, just let them burn the place. It's like, fuck you. You know, you know, you shoot people. You know, like Kyle did. You know, the hero Kyle. You shoot people who were trying to kill you, and you're branded a white supremacist, even though the people that you shot were themselves white. Doesn't make sense. But again, lefties don't make sense. They're insane. Those at the rally chanted hateful phrases, including "the Jew is the devil." Don't know. This is just repeating the same thing. The rally, which was organized by National Socialist Movement. Oh, wait a minute. In NMS. Okay, well, you got it right in one spot and wrong in another. Was live streamed on the American Nazi Party site. You know, anyone want to guess at what pathetically low numbers probably they got on that? You know, in one social media clip shared by user Donnie NP, the group can be seen gathering around a vehicle, one bypasser getting punched by a man who appears to be part of the rally. Well, that would have been an excellent moment for the person in the vehicle to do what DeSantis has allowed them to do, I believe, which is run over the so-called protester because they're blocking the roadway and assaulting you. It's like, yeah, run them down. Neo-Nazi leader Bert Colucci circled. Why is he following, you know, in the footsteps of Hitler? Shouldn't it be in the footsteps of Mussolini? I tweeted that he was indicted by a grand jury for disorderly conduct charges. Okay. As captioned, my son just witnessed Nazis in Orlando. He said there were dozens hanging on the corner. Yeah, based on the photos, I would say there was a dozen. Tops. A dozen. Not dozens. A dozen. The guy getting assaulted got out of his car and pushed one of them. Okay, well, I guess he wasn't intimidated by them then, was he? In another video shared by on Twitter, a man can be seen stomping on an Israeli flag. Again, who gives a shit? You know, if you're not going to... Look, this is America where this is happening. The Israeli flag is not sacred here. The American flag is, but not the Israeli flag. And if you're not going to stop leftists from stomping the American flag, then you shouldn't fucking give a shit about people stomping a foreign country's flag. In another video shared by blah blah blah, stomping flag, comments on social media reported the group made monkey noises at a black woman who was passing by, Newsweek reported. Now, I don't know what monkey noises would be. Okay, whatever. I mean, if you're the one making the monkey noises, doesn't that make you the one who looks like a fucking idiot? Anyway, the Orange County Sheriff's Office told the site that they received calls about the rally in the afternoon on Saturday, where around 20 people were gathered for the neo-Nazi demonstration. Yeah, well, look, like I said, we looked at the photos here. Doesn't look like 20 people. Looks like 10 or 12. That's about it. And what is that? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Yeah, about 12. About 12. It's hard to tell. Really shitty quality. Hate group shouted anti-Semitic Slurs towards Jewish community, chanted anti-black sentiments, and waved Nazi flags. Again, those actions, as far as I know, are technically all legal. Spokesperson said the group assembled on public property was reported by witnesses to be wearing clothing with Nazi insignia and yelling profanities and anti-Semitic slurs at vehicles passing by. I mean, unless they're hurling things at the cars, I don't see what the problem is. Who in their right minds would be driving with their windows down in Florida, by the way? Wouldn't you have your windows up and the fucking air conditioner running? Jeez. Fucking humidity down there. You know, even in the winter, as far as I know, the humidity is a killer. Anyway, they added several demonstrators got into a fight with a person passing by. An investigation is ongoing, although no arrests were made. Police said that while the officer deplores hate speech in any form, the protesters had the First Amendment right to demonstrate. That is correct. The First Amendment is not to protect speech that everybody likes. It is specifically to protect speech that people don't like, which is these days labeled as hate speech. You know, people are always, free speech is one thing, but hate speech isn't. No, it's not. It's one and the same. Hate speech is free speech. Horrifying footage of white supremacists sitting in Nazi. That's just so stupid. What are 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. Yeah, this one's got 13 people there, and assuming that that's actually the neo-Nazis or whatever, that's like the most that we've seen in a picture is like 13. Okay, well, that's that. So, utterly fucking ridiculous. And I'm sure there's more, and I wouldn't count on it being any more compelling than that crap that we just saw. Okay, this video of hers that I just EFAP'd was less than 9 minutes long. It was only 8 minutes and 56 seconds long. And we've been going for 2 hours and 6 minutes and 55 seconds. Wow. Well, I guess I am back to form, am I not? You know, a hideously long EFAP for for a tiny short little video and a tweet and okay. Anyway, all right. I guess that's all I got to say about this. I'm sorry she's afraid. I really am. I hope she gets over it. I hope she gets over being a leftist. That would help more than basically anything else. Okay, well. Until the next one.
Well, you know what they say. No news is good news.